Picture this: waking up every morning with energy, purpose, and a quiet peace in your heart, even well past 75. Life at this age can still be a beautiful journey, rich with moments of joy and strength. But there are 5 silent threats lurking in the shadows, ready to steal your health and independence if you're not prepared. In this video, we'll introduce you to Ellen, a 76-year-old from Colorado who faced these dangers head-on after a moment that nearly broke her. Through her story, we'll uncover these hidden risks and share simple, powerful ways to protect yourself. Stay with us until the end. Ellen's journey might just light the way for you to live stronger, healthier, and happier in the years ahead. Risk 1: the heart's quiet battle. Ellen's older brother, Tom, passed away at 73 from a sudden heart attack. For years, she'd chalked it up to fate, just one of those things that happens when you get older. But everything changed one frosty morning when she climbed the steps to her porch and felt a crushing weight in her chest, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. Panic set in as she clutched the railing, wondering if this was her time too. She made it to her doctor, who delivered a sobering truth. Heart disease is the leading cause of death after 75, a silent predator that creeps up unnoticed until it's almost too late. Ellen's heart wasn't failing because of her age. It was begging for help after decades of neglect. High blood pressure, that invisible enemy, had been straining her arteries for years, forcing her heart to work harder than it should just to keep her going. She'd dismissed the signs: persistent fatigue, a tightness in her chest, as nothing more than the wear and tear of growing old. But those were cries from a heart in distress, whispers she'd ignored for far too long. The doctor's words hit her like a thunderbolt. Ellen, heart disease isn't just luck or genetics. It's shaped by the choices you make every single day. That moment flipped a switch inside her. She thought back to the salty dinners she'd relied on, canned soups and chips instead of fresh meals. She remembered the afternoons spent in her recliner instead of walking the dog, the years of stress over money and family piling up like bricks on her chest. She decided she wasn't ready to give up, not yet. She started small, swapped out the chips for a handful of almonds, rich in omega-3s that science says protect your arteries from inflammation and buildup. She began walking around her yard, just a few steps at first, building up to 20 minutes a day, enough to get her blood flowing and ease the strain on her heart. Stress, she learned, was another silent killer. Those sleepless nights worrying about her kids had sped up her pulse more than she'd realized. Now, every evening, she sits quietly, closes her eyes, and takes 5 deep breaths, imagining her worries floating away like leaves on a stream. It's simple, but it works. Her heart feels lighter, in more ways than one. Health tip: add a handful of walnuts to your breakfast. They're packed with nutrients that fight inflammation and keep your arteries flexible. Take a 20-minute walk. After dinner, it's like a gentle massage for your heart, boosting circulation and easing pressure. And here's Ellen's secret: sip a cup of chamomile tea when stress creeps in. It slows your heartbeat and calms your mind. I used to think my heart would just stop one day, Ellen says, her voice steady, her eyes shining with a quiet pride. Now I know I'm the one keeping it beating, stronger every day. Tom's memory lingers, not as a shadow, but as a push to keep going. One crisp morning, she climbed those porch steps without a hitch, no gasps, no pain. She stood there, smiling, to herself, and whispered, "I've got this." It was her first victory, a promise to herself that she'd fight for every beat. Risk 2: the fall that woke her up. One snowy evening, Ellen was shuffling through her dimly lit hallway when her foot caught on a loose rug she'd meant to fix for months. The world tilted as she stumbled, her hands flailing until she grabbed the wall just in time, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She didn't fall, not that time, but the terror of what could have been stayed with her long after her pulse slowed. Falls aren't just clumsy moments. They're one of the deadliest risks after 75, sending millions of seniors to emergency rooms every year and often marking the beginning of the end for their independence. Before that night, Ellen had never seen herself as fragile. She'd spent her younger years tending a sprawling garden, hauling soil and watering cans with ease, her legs strong and sure beneath her. But over time, those muscles had quietly weakened. Her balance had slipped away unnoticed, until that rug nearly brought her down and opened her eyes to a truth she'd ignored. Her body wasn't as steady as it once was, and the stakes were higher now than ever. Lying awake that night, Ellen couldn't shake the images that flooded her mind. A broken hip, months in a hospital bed, her beloved home traded for a nursing home room where she'd be a shadow of herself. She thought of her friend Margaret, whose husband had slipped on a wet porch 2 winters ago, fracturing his pelvis. He never walked again, fading away in a care facility far from the life he'd known. That could be me, Ellen realized, and the fear turned into resolve. The next morning, she got to work. She started with chair squats, 10 a day, holding the kitchen table for support, feeling her legs protest but push through. She swapped out the dim bulbs in her house for bright ones, hammering down every loose rug and adding a sturdy handrail to her stairs. She learned her blood pressure medication had been making her dizzy, a side effect she'd dismissed as tiredness until she nearly paid for it. A quick chat with her doctor fixed that, and the fog in her head cleared. Research backs her up. Regular strength and balance exercises can slash your fall risk by half, and simple home tweaks like better lighting and secure footing save lives. Ellen's proudest day came when she crossed her icy driveway without a wobble. No cane, no fear. Just her own 2 feet carrying her forward. Health tip. Stand on one leg for 30 seconds while brushing your teeth. It's a small move that builds big stability over time. Add handrails to your stairs and bathroom. Safety isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Check your medications with your doctor. If you're dizzy or unsteady, it's not just age. It could be a warning. I used to dread every step I took, Ellen says with a chuckle, her voice warm with triumph. Now I dance with my grandkids again and I'm not afraid. That near miss wasn't a defeat. It was her wake-up call, a chance to reclaim her strength and rewrite her future. She's not just standing taller, she's living proof that a fall doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning of something stronger. Risk 3. Breathing through the years. Ellen had always cherished her old house, the creaky floors, the cozy corners filled with memories, but she never realized how much it was quietly hurting her. The dust piling up in the attic, the smoke curling from her ancient fireplace, and the long winter days spent indoors had slowly taken a toll on her lungs. It started with a nagging cough she blamed on the weather, a little wheeze she shrugged off as nothing serious. But one spring morning, a simple cold turned into something far worse. She found herself bedridden for weeks, each breath a shallow struggle that left her weak and scared. That's when she learned the hard truth. Respiratory diseases like COPD and pneumonia are relentless threats after 75, turning something as basic as breathing into a fight for survival. Her lungs weren't as resilient as they'd once been. Decades of city air, occasional secondhand smoke from neighbors, and too many sedentary months had worn them down. She'd always thought that raspy sound when she breathed was just a quirk of aging. But her doctor shook his head and said, "Ellen, your lungs need care, not excuses. They've been working hard for you. Now it's your turn to work for them." That warning stuck with her, especially when she thought of her neighbor, Rose, who'd passed away from pneumonia 2 years earlier. It had started with a cough, not unlike Ellen's, but it spiraled fast. Within days, Rose was gone, a stark reminder of how quickly things can turn. Ellen didn't want that ending. She opened her windows wide every day, letting fresh air sweep. through her home and bought a small air purifier for her living room, its hum a quiet promise of cleaner breaths. She started stretching in her backyard each morning, simple moves that opened her chest and cleared her airways, making her feel lighter within days. Her doctor urged her to get vaccinated against pneumonia and the flu. Her immune system wasn't as strong as it used to be, and she wasn't about to gamble with it. She tackled the hidden dangers in her house, too, scrubbed mold from the basement, ditched scented candles for unscented calm. I used to feel like my chest was locked tight, she says, taking a deep breath as she waters her flowers. Now every inhale feels like a gift I didn't know I'd been missing. Science agrees. Movement keeps lungs elastic, vaccines shield against infections, and clean air can add years to your life. Ellen's not just surviving, she's thriving, her garden blooming as brightly as her newfound strength. Health tip. Take 15 slow, deep breaths outside every day. Oxygen is your lungs' best friend, flushing out staleness and keeping them strong. Walk for 10 minutes after meals. It helps your lungs expand and clears mucus naturally. Get your flu shot. It's not just a precaution, it's a lifesaver. Breathing used to be a chore, Ellen says, her voice steady with gratitude. Now it's my freedom, and I'm holding on to it. That cold was her turning point. Not a defeat, but a chance to fight back and reclaim the air she'd taken for granted. Risk 4. The stroke that almost struck. Ellen's cousin James collapsed at 74, felled by a stroke that stole his voice in an instant. She'd watched him fade, trapped in a body that wouldn't obey, and always thought it was a distant tragedy. Until it came for her, too. One quiet afternoon, as she stood in her kitchen pouring tea, her vision blurred like a fog rolling in. Her tongue stumbled over words and her hand trembled, dropping the cup to the floor with a crash. It lasted only a minute, but it felt like forever. A mini-stroke, her doctor later called it, a warning shot she couldn't ignore. Strokes are a merciless foe after 75, striking without notice and leaving devastation in their wake, one of the top killers that can turn a life upside down in seconds. But what shook Ellen to her core was her doctor's next words. Up to 80% of strokes can be prevented, Ellen. You've got more power over this than you think. That revelation turned her fear into fuel. She wasn't helpless, not yet. Her blood pressure, she learned, had been soaring for years, a silent time bomb ticking away unnoticed. All those salty soups from cans, the soda she sipped instead of water, the sleepless nights worrying about bills. They'd hardened her arteries, slowed her blood, and set the stage for disaster. She'd felt her heart race before, blamed it on nerves or age, but it was a signal she'd missed. She wasn't about to let it claim her like it did James. She overhauled her kitchen, tossed the processed junk, filled her fridge with kale and berries, started drinking water like it was her job, carrying a bottle everywhere to stay on track. She laced up her shoes and walked her dog every day, 20 minutes of brisk steps, enough to feel her pulse steady and strong. That mini-stroke had been a gift in disguise. She'd caught it early, rushed to her doctor, and adjusted her meds before a full-blown stroke could strike. She thinks of James every time she checks her pressure, his silence a reminder of what she's fighting to avoid. I thought I'd lose everything in that moment, she says, her voice firm, her gaze unwavering. Now I'm fighting for every day I've got left, and I'm winning. Studies say quick action after a mini-stroke can save you. Ellen's living proof of that, a survivor who turned a scare into strength. Health tip. Check your blood pressure. Every week, knowing your numbers is your first defense. Add a banana to your breakfast. Potassium helps relax your arteries and keeps blood flowing smooth. Watch for sudden confusion, blurred vision, or slurred speech. Don't wait. Call 911 fast. It could be the difference between recovery and regret. I was 1 second from losing it all, Ellen says, a quiet fire in her eyes. But I'm still Here, still talking, still me, because I chose to act. That afternoon in the kitchen wasn't her end. It was her beginning, a chance to rewrite her story with every steady heartbeat. Risk 5. The mind's slow fade. When Ellen's kids moved away after she retired, the quiet settled in like an uninvited guest. At first, it was small things. Keys misplaced, a doctor's appointment forgotten, a favorite recipe slipping from her mind. She'd laugh it off, chalking it up to a busy life winding down. But one rainy afternoon, she stood frozen in her living room, staring at a photo of her best friend, Clara, and realizing she couldn't recall her name. The fog wasn't just a moment. It was a warning. Cognitive decline isn't just a side effect of aging. It's a creeping danger after 75, paving the way for dementia and Alzheimer's to steal not just memories, but safety and independence. Ellen remembered her father, once a vibrant storyteller who'd captivate the family with tales of his youth. He'd faded into silence, forgetting how to cook, then his own children's faces, until Alzheimer's took him entirely. That memory hit her hard. She didn't want her grandkids to watch her disappear too. Loneliness, she realized, had been her enemy. Empty days left her mind dull, drifting like a boat unmoored. She refused to let it win. Ellen joined a book club at the local library, diving into novels she'd never have picked up before, savoring the debates with new friends that sparked her thoughts alive. She bought a Sudoku book, puzzling over numbers each night, frustrating at first, but soon a quiet thrill as she solved them faster. She called her sister daily, swapping stories. Of the past week, their laughter a lifeline that kept her tethered. She learned exercise wasn't just for her body. Every afternoon walk sent blood rushing to her brain, sharpening her focus like polishing a lens. Her diet shifted too. Cookies gave way to walnuts and blueberries, brain-boosting foods she now swears by, their antioxidants fighting the haze she'd felt creeping in. Staying connected became her armor. Game nights with friends filled her house with chatter and joy, each move on the board a workout for her mind. I used to feel my thoughts slipping away, she says, her eyes twinkling as she lays down a winning tile. Now I'm beating my pals at Scrabble, and it feels like I'm winning back myself. Her father's smile lives in her fight. She's not just holding on to memories, she's making new ones, proving the mind can stay sharp if you give it a chance to shine. Studies back her up. Mental stimulation, social ties, and a healthy lifestyle can slow cognitive decline, turning back the clock on a threat too many accept as inevitable. Health tip: play a card game or puzzle with friends once a week. It's a fun workout that keeps your brain firing on all cylinders. Snack on a handful of blueberries daily. Their antioxidants protect your neurons from aging's wear. Talk to someone every day. Connection isn't just comfort, it's a shield against the fade. I thought I was losing my mind to time, Ellen says, her voice rich with pride. Now I know I can keep it, because I'm not letting it go without a fight. That moment with Clara's photo wasn't her unraveling. It was her rallying cry, a spark that lit the way to a clearer, stronger tomorrow. Ellen's story proves it. Heart disease, falls, lung troubles, strokes, and memory loss don't have to dictate your life after 75. She faced these 5 silent threats and turned them into stepping stones with small, steady changes. A walk here, a deep breath there, a game with friends. These risks aren't set in stone, they're challenges you can meet head-on. So, what's your next step? A stroll around the block, a call to a loved one, a puzzle to solve? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear what inspires you. Hit subscribe for more stories and tips to live bold, strong, and joyful. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.